Okay, welcome back to the second part of our little mission tutorial here. So basically we've got our flight of 4 players down. We've got enemy convoy set up. We have our SAM site. We have an enemy flight that's coming in and patrolling. We got him on a waypoint patrol, or a racetrack patrol there. And this one here was just our test one I did at the end, which I'm going to use for this next bit because we are going to be talking about triggers. Okay, a trigger is a zone that I'm going to put down. Not always a zone, but I'm going to use what's called trigger zones, and then a trigger using that zone to activate things. But yeah, so if you don't want something to happen straight away, and either you want these guys to activate at a certain time or you want them to actually spawn in at a certain time, you'll use triggers, which is very important when you're doing a mission. You don't want everyone sitting at the airfield for 20 minutes and then the mission's over and then they take off and there's nothing left. So let's go into how to set up triggers. Down the left here you have two sections. You have a trigger panel here, and you also have a trigger, oops, wrong one. No, had the right one. Trigger zone, which I'm going to basically put one down at the moment. So let's go, just slap it down, and that brings up a little default circle. Now I'm going to call this, I'm going to use this for the convoy start, so let's just call it convoy start. I'm the best at naming things. Alright, now one thing to start with this, it's a very small circle. If I was taking off from the airfield flying out to here to the mission area, I might miss this. So obviously I don't want it this small. If I fly here, I'm going to miss it. So let's make it a bit bigger. Let's add some zeros to it. There we go. Looks nice and big. You can set it to a specific time. I'm not going to go into, I usually put it over it and then I'll work out the time. I'm just going to shortcut here and just leave it at that height. So around there. So pretty much like if my flight, or if my little test plane here flies into this zone, it's going to trigger what I want to trigger. So how do I set up what's going to happen? Well, first of all, let's zoom in to the convoy. You can click on any one, it doesn't matter as long as it's that group. There's a button here called late activation. Now you can do it two ways. I can leave it not late activation, and I can just have it so the AI won't activate or turn on until I pass this trigger. That's one way. Second way is if I put late activation, and this convoy won't be on the map at all, and it will spawn in when I pass this zone. So let's try late activation first, because that's the simplest one. So I've got that late activation. How about we put SAM on late activation, and we also put the MIGs. So nothing is going to spawn in at the start until I trigger it when I pass this zone. How do I set that up? So I've got my trigger zone. We go to trigger panel here, page. Now you got three sections. First one is setting up what trigger you're going to use. There's a few different types. Once I trigger it, it's just going to happen once and not again. Repetitive means that it's going to keep triggering once I pass it. Just say if I had a smoke here and I trigger it, it's just going to keep, now on a repetitive, it's just going to keep that smoke spawning or active. and continuously do that. Switched, I haven't really used too much, but switched, I've just slowly learning a bit more about how you can reuse that trigger. But I'm not going to huge details. I'll show you a little bit what I've learned, but well, not now, but later on. But yeah, you can actually trigger that and then you'll have it trigger again, which is very handy. Mission start is if you want something to happen straight from mission start. Now I'm not going to go into it right now, but a lot of people will make a little trigger at the start to delay everything until the map and the mission settles down and spawns in about, like, say 20 seconds or 10 seconds, because when the map loads in, a lot of stuff goes on. If you ever played DCS, you'll know what I mean. So you can set up a little trigger to hold everything off just to make sure everything works okay, but I'm not going to do that just yet. A bit too much complicated to what I want to explain now, but that's what mission start does. It's like from the mission start, basically. Alright, so let's just explain it. So triggers are what triggers you want to use, what type. Let's give it a name, trigger. Let's just call it convoy start again. That's fine. Conditions we want. Okay, so what are conditions? Conditions are what conditions need to be met to activate this trigger. So what's going to activate it? Actions is what will happen once those conditions are met for that trigger, if that makes sense. So let's put that to examples. So what conditions do I want? Let's go to new. You've got a whole heap here of triggers, conditions that you can put on this action here. So what I want is for when I pass this trigger, this plane, that's all going to spawn. Now there's a few ways I can do that. You can either do coalition, which is any blue force goes into this zone, that's going to trigger it. So this one, or anything. So this is a common one I'm going to be using. You can also do part of coalition. So all is going to have all of, and when I say that, I rarely use this one actually. I'd use the coalition, but I usually use the part of coalition, because all the coalition, all the planes have to be inside this circle. Part of coalition means just one plane is going to trigger it. Now you can also use group or part of group. What that is if I select group in zone, and I can select the ASOR cast flight, or I can select the test flight, which is just this plane, and only this plane will trigger it. So if this one were to fly into it, it won't trigger. Only this one. So that's quite a handy one to use if you're just wanting, say, a cap flight to trigger something rather than a cap flight who's flying all over the place. So I'm just going to use part of coalition in the zone, and here is which is your coalition. I'm going to say blue force. So that's my condition. So as soon as I fly into this trigger, so I'm part of the coalition, it's going to trigger. Now what do I want to happen? Let's go to new, and you've got a whole heap of options here. Now I'm going to put in, I want the convoy to start. Let's just try that actually. Let's just do one. We're going to go, because I've got this on late activation, it's not going to activate until I pass this trigger. I'm in the zone, so what I want it to do is group activate. And I want to select convoy. Just looking at that, looks like convoy 1 is this group here. So before I do anything else, I'm just going to click on this group. Call this Sam. I forgot to name it in that last bit. So like I said, starting up, always get in the habit of naming your groups, otherwise you'll get into the situation that I just did then. So click on that, brings it all up again, and then you'll see Sam in there. So obviously it will get confusing if you don't name them properly. And let's just do that. Let's just do group activate convoy. So I've got all these laid activations, so none of these will spawn except the convoy when I fly in. So let's, how about I get him a bit closer. Alright, so let's do it. Fly mission. Yes, save. Let's go to our test flight. Tracker unplugged. Don't know why DCS is doing this to me. Alright. Fly mission. So if I look at the F10 map straight away, you see nothing on the map. Now if I keep flying, hopefully don't crash into the water, you will see the convoy. Where do I have him? I had him about here. Pop up. Let's just speed up time. I'll be passing the convoy, and there it is. Ooh. Oh, sorry, I saw Sam. I thought I spawned the Sam site. There's my convoy. Nothing else has spawned except that convoy. Simple as that. And that trigger's only used once because I only did that once trigger. So let's jump back out. Mission editor. Go back to triggers. Now if I wanted to spawn everything, just add another one. New. Group activate. MiG-29. New. Group activate. Sam. Fly that one. And we shall have them all spawn in. Oop. Let's work it on autopilot just in case. And F10. Speed up time. And hello. Got the SAM site locking me up. MiG-29's coming in there, probably locking me up. And I'm stalling. There's MiG-29s, there's the SAM site. Down there on the RWR. So that is how you spawn in using a trigger. So you put down a zone. You put down what type of trigger you want to use. You put down a condition for that trigger to activate, and put down what you want to do. And yeah, there's a whole heap of different things. Like even if I just say I wanted a message to coalition or message to all, I could use either. Blue, say groups have spawned. And I can go fly that one, and that's going to put a little message on the screen when I pass it. So I won't look at the map this time. Put me speed up, autopilot on. So now once I pass the spawn point, groups have spawned and everything's going crazy. So yeah, you can put up any messages, you can put up the length of that time you wanted the message to stay up on. If I look there, it's got how long you want it for. And that's how you can put messages up. You can also put, where you want, new, you can put a sound in there as well. You can actually put in whole speech snippets if you want, if you've got voice actors, but just say I went sound to coalition. Blue, I've got one sound here which I usually have to people notice a pop-up called beep. Has to be an OGG, you can just make one up or download, and when I fly that one you probably won't hear it because all this other beeping going on. Don't know why I pressed no there, I should have saved it. Let's click it on there. Fly. Let's stop it about there. Hopefully the sound kicks in. There we go. Speed up, put afterburners on. You should hear once I stop yapping. There it is. Had a sound pop up. So that's as simple it is to get messages on the screen. And that's just using triggers. So what else can you do with triggers? Now just say sometimes you've got a CAS flight, they might be a certain distance out, they might be looking at that waypoint too, but they haven't passed the trigger zone. And I don't want them looking down here or looking or seeing something that is going to pop in. So just say I want them in the mission start but not moving. So let's set that up. First of all, I want them at the start of the mission to be on the map, so I'm going to untick late activation. Let's untick that one too. And go back to my triggers. Now because I don't want them to start moving at the mission start, I want them to start moving when I want them to. I'm going to put in here new. I'm going to put mission start. I'm going to call this trigger convoy deactivate. I'm not very creative when it comes to names, but as long as you know what each one is, that's fine. Now, when I'm doing this, I get in the habit of moving them in order of what's happening. I stickler for doing that so I can keep the mission flow in how I want it. So mission start, convoy deactivate, I'm going to put here. I don't need a condition because the condition basically is already set because it's the mission start. And I'm going to go down to group AI. So instead of group activate and deactivate, I want group AI. So I'm going to turn him off. Convoy. I'm going to do the same for Sam. So that's going to turn the AI, so they're not going to be active when the mission starts. Now when I pass the zone, instead of group activate, I'm going to put group AI on, convoy. Where did the SAM site go? So I had the SAM site there. Well, anyway, group AI on, SAM. Let's move that up. So the AI will come on for the convoy and SAM, and the group activate here, let's just delete that. So we'll have him come in later. So just the AI will start with these two. So just go through that. Convoy start. Part of coalition when I pass that zone, and then group A switches on. Switch it off there, switch it on there. So let's test that. Going to our test flight. Autopilot on. Speed up. So as you can see, convoy is there, code F7, it is not moving, and I got no SAM threat. There's a SAM site in the distance, but they're not beeping away. So let's see, once I pass that zone, they should wake up any second. Groups have spawned, or in this case woken up. There's the SAM site's woken up, and those groups are active. So that's how you can get them to be in the mission but not there. And it's very handy for SAM sites to actually you can put them down, but then they can just activate at certain times, so you can have a pop-up SAM threat, or you can just have them spawn in, but if you want you can have them in the mission. There's the launch, and I'm about to die. So yeah, very handy. Gosh, I love this game. Let's see myself die. That could be a while. Alright. This is a mission making video, not a eye candy let's watch everything happen tutorial. So that is activating and deactivating AI. So that's another way you can do it other than spawn aircraft in and doing things like that. So that is trigger zones, how to use those, and a very quick basic flow of how triggers will work and how you can get them to activate. So you've got your mission trigger type, conditions to meet it, and what's going to happen once that condition is met. So when you look at that and when you get that idea how it works, the amount of things you can actually do with them, I haven't even hardly even scratched the surface, but you can get very creative by just using these triggers that are all set up, and it's pretty straightforward. Next video will be, I'll get into flags and how to use those, which will help you activate things at certain times and even activate events outside of these trigger zones, so, and prevent you from activating the trigger zone until you want it. So these are very handy, these flags, but won't overload this video with that. I'll get into that on the next one. But yeah, there's a lot you can do. Incidentally, before I do that, if you're ever doing a couple of conditions, just say I want part of coalition in zone, and where's another one I can use? Unit alive. Just say I need, well, when you're naming pilots and all that, that's where this can come in handy. But just say I say group alive. Where's group alive? And just say I need the convoy alive. So for this to happen, the convoy needs to be alive and part of coalition needs to be in this zone. So this is, both those need to be met. There is an option to put or. Move this down. If you put or in between them, that means that will trigger. If part of the coalition, me was in the zone, or this convoy was alive. So straight away when the mission starts, and this convoy is going to be alive, so it's going to activate it straight away, even if I was outside the zone. So that's how you either make a couple of conditions or one or the other. So throw that in. Other than that, I shall come back and we shall talk about flags and how that works in a mission. I'll be back in the next video.